Hey everybody, welcome back to the show today. Can't wait to get into this listener-based topic. I want to be talking about autoimmune issues in general and how they honestly can be cured. I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story, so many people that we've seen in our practice, and I'm going to use an example called ankylosing spondylitis. But you could replace ankylosing spondylitis with rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, or any other autoimmune-based issue. I want you to know that the way that we go about finding the root cause is the same. However, the protocols may differ, and I'll share all of that with you here today. So ankylosing spondylitis, I'll often refer to just as AS. Since it is a mouthful, it's easier just to say AS than ankylosing spondylitis. But ankylosing spondylitis, AS, is an inflammatory issue just like all autoimmune issues, okay? The difference is autoimmune issues are given a name based on where they strike in the body. So for ankylosing spondylitis, it affects mainly the spine. So what is it? Well, instead of inflammation of the small joints in, let's say, the hand or the elbows or so, like rheumatoid arthritis, or the thyroid, which would be Hashimoto's autoimmune-based issue, then ankylosing spondylitis is inflammation of the vertebrae in the spine. So when you look at your spine, it's all those little bony protrusions, essentially. Well, in between all of them is space. That space allows for them to sit on top of discs for cushion, and it gives your spine a nice shape as well. The issue is with ankylosing spondylitis is that the inflammation over time can actually start to fuse or harden the spine. And that's obviously going to lead to pain and a lot of debilitating postural and spinal-based issues. Now, again, all autoimmune issues are inflammatory based and they affect different parts of the body. The issue with ankylosing spondylitis is that it's really rheumatoid arthritis of the spine. It honestly is. It's even considered a rheumatoid type autoimmune issue without the rheumatoid factor or certain blood markers being elevated. But they even refer to it as a seronegative spondyloarthropathy, which is referring to essentially arthritis of a particular area of the body, in this case, the spine, versus rheumatoid arthritis, which is more of the smaller joints of the body. So you can really look at this and rheumatoid arthritis in a very similar fashion. Now, conventional medicine won't really, but honestly, a lot of the same biologic drugs that, and biologic means it shuts down you really should call them immunosuppressive rather than biological drugs. Biological makes them sound a lot nicer, but they're immunosuppressants. And so they use a lot of the same RA drugs, rheumatoid arthritis, RA, right, versus ankylosing spondylitis, which is AS. But they use a lot of the same ones. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. I just want you to understand is that conventional medicine likes to give everything a different name, but really we're talking about inflammatory syndrome, right? Inflammatory symptoms affecting a certain part of the body. We'll find out what that is in just a moment. But here's what the effects of AS are. Really, anytime there is a lot of inflammation in the body, it leads to a lot of white blood cells. It leads to then a lot of inflammation in the body. So there's a lot of oxidative stress, which leads to aging. There's a lot of oxidative stress leading to inflammation and fatigue. Okay, so that's a big part of it. The other issue, though, is specifically more for AS, right? It's leading to more back pain and stiffness. So people feel it a lot more, especially waking up in the morning or staying seated in the same position for a lengthy period of time. So if you do have AS, just like if you have any form of arthritis, even though it might not feel comfortable, a lot of times you just want to get your body moving. Go for a walk in the morning, do your stretching, do some light movement. I can't give you a specific protocol right now, but all of these things are extremely helpful. Get the body moving, move the blood flow to the area, supply it with nutrients. We'll talk about the lymphatic and detoxification just in a moment. As the disease progresses, just like most, there is a limiting of mobility. So there's a limiting of function. Just again, think about rheumatoid arthritis, how it begins to gnarl the knuckles and small joints in the hand and really attack the elbows and other joints. Well, over time, that limits mobility. We have to make sure that we cut this off as quickly as possible. All right. The interesting thing, though, with ankylosing spondylitis or AS, ankylosing spondylitis, it's important to understand is that autoimmune issues is a systemic issue. It's not just, oh, Hashimoto's, so it affects the thyroid gland in my neck, or RA, it affects the joints in my hands, or again, any one of these, AS affecting my spine. No. Eventually, again, this is systemic inflammation. And yes, you're genetically predisposed to more of the spine in this case, but keep in mind, it eventually can affect your eyes, Okay, that's a big problem, right? Affect your eyesight. It can affect your lungs and your respiration, and it can affect your overall cardiac ability, your heart's ability to function. So this is why, sure, we'll say we need help with the spine with AS or the joints in the hands with RA, but it's not. These things eventually lead to other health issues. And that's the problem with conventional medicine is they're treating all of the parts of your body symptomatically and as separate units, when really AS and all autoimmune issues are a systemic issue, but it's just your Achilles heel is genetically predisposed to wherever you are. So in AS, you've probably heard about the gene HLA-B27. Here's the issue. We're all genetically predisposed to something. That doesn't mean that just because you have this gene, you're going to get ankylosing spondylitis. Not in any way, shape, or form. Keep in mind, I shared this before, but I want to share with you again. We've worked with now hundreds of thousands of private clients, one-on-one in our practice, and many of them have autoimmune issues. But I had an autoimmune issue at 17 years old, okay? It's been in my genes. It was in my genes for the first 16 years as well, but didn't get it until 17. All four of my grandparents had rheumatoid arthritis. Both my parents had rheumatoid arthritis. Then at 17, I get it. Why do I get it at 17? Well, inflammation filled up my rain barrel, right? And then it overflowed. And then my genetic predispositions began to show themselves. Addisons disease, type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, insomnia, allergies, acid reflux, all these health issues I had. Were they all separate? Of course not, right? The acid reflux wasn't separate from the allergies, which wasn't separate from the inflammation with the rheumatoid arthritis. Well, okay. Well, I had those for many years, but I know for sure by the age of 27, when I finally healed, and it doesn't have to take you 10 years. Typically, this is a 4 to 6 month, 3 to 6 month process with autoimmune issues, probably, right around that mark. But here's the issue is that, okay, I've lived for almost 20 years now from when I healed. So I had an autoimmune issue from 17 years old to about 27, but haven't had it since. So is it in my genes? Yes. Do I have the same genes today? Yes. It's the expression of those genes. So never feel like your genes are your destiny. They're not. They aren't. And honestly, for most people, looking at your genes is not the best use of your finances, your investment. It's not. Your genes tell you nothing, honestly, nothing except what you are predisposed to. It is what we're going to talk about in just a moment that really need to look at for the expression of those genes. It literally tells you nothing. I have the same genes I had at 16 years old before I was diagnosed with these diseases. And then I finally got diagnosed with them at 19 years old. Same exact genes, right? And now, almost 30 years later, same genes, but none of those diseases. So be careful with how much weight you give to your actual genes. All right, so here's what conventional medicine likes to do for autoimmune issues, as well as, in this case, AS. Okay, they use NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay, fine, what's it doing? It's lowering inflammation, but artificially, because you're not working on the root cause. So when you lower inflammation, or you feel better. The problem is you didn't fix anything. And so it's still there. It's still attacking. And NSAIDs, people don't know, but it can lead to serious ulcers, serious digestive issues, serious kidney issues. We have to be careful with using NSAIDs, especially ibuprofen. Like that's just a big one as well. All right. These biological medications, we need to call them what they are. They are immunosuppressants, okay? So immunosuppressants are used to go after things like TNF inhibitors or interleukin 17, all these different interleukins or different types of white blood cells or parts of our immune system, signalers, that we shut them off. To just say, oh, don't attack the joints. We're just going to shut off that part of the immune system. Well, here's the issue. It could lead to then dying from pneumonia, unfortunately, or other things like that when you actually need your immune system for those types of functions. So we have to be really careful with those things. Sometimes corticosteroids are used. So you might say, well, when I take corticosteroids, I feel great. Well, yes, because it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory. However, leaves you more predisposed to concussions, to potentially Alzheimer's disease in the future, and much more when you're raising cortisol levels to that degree. There are other fancier drugs called disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drugs that are used for AS as well. Again, it's essentially rheumatoid arthritis, of the spine. Does it need to be treated different? No, it really doesn't. And they really don't treat it differently for conventional medicine as well. However, they classify it differently. It's used, you go to a different specialist, et cetera. But in natural medicine, which we're going to talk about next, we can look at all autoimmune issues as the same and then find out which specific underlying root cause you have. Okay, I'm going to get to that actually right now. So just quickly, what else does conventional medicine do? Physical therapy. Physical therapy is like trying to take a bucket to the ocean to empty the ocean. Like, again, you should do it. You absolutely should, but it's not getting the underlying root cause. So it's not like spinal mobility, those things matter. They do. Strengthening your core matters. Like all of those things matter, but you're still not getting the underlying root cause. Like it's not going to happen, right? Conventional medicine gives very little lifestyle recommendation. They talk about being a little bit more mobile, doing your physical therapy, stopping smoking. They don't talk about diet at all and how such a huge factor it plays with inflammation in the body. The average standard American diet is an 18-to-1 omega-6s to omega-3s. That matters, right? Lipopolysaccharides that I spoke about before, all of those things matter. And I've shows on all of these things at stephencabral.com/podcast. You're welcome to simply type in your keyword and it will pop up if those things are new to you. So those matter. And then of course, conventional medicine, if you're a surgeon, what do you love to do? Well, surgery, right? Like that's what you get paid to do. And so then eventually when things get bad, they'll go in and either fuse parts of the spine or actually remove certain parts that are causing impingement on the nerves, et cetera. And I think we have to be, really careful with that as well. I don't want people to suffer. Like that's the truth. So I get it. I understand. I support people however they can and need to be supported. But what I want people to understand is that all autoimmune issues have an underlying root cause. Throw your genetics out the window. Honestly, we all are predisposed to something. I'm not predisposed to Hashimoto's, but I am predisposed to rheumatoid arthritis, which is why I got it as a teenager. Way too young to get it. I mean, my grandparents didn't even get it until their 50s or so, maybe early 60s. My parents maybe got it in their later 40s. Well, why don't I have it, right? So we have to look at all of these specific things and understand that they're part of our genes, but they are not our destiny. So what do? How do we heal from all autoimmune issues? The first thing we need to do is to always understand is that all disease comes from a deficiency in the body and or a toxicity. Usually it's both, to be honest with you. It's like by the time we've just gotten to, I was a special case at 17 years old. I was not I don't have great genes and all those things. But again, you can't blame it on your genes because I'm healthy now, 30 years later. So we have to understand is that our genes allow us to be susceptible, but it's, as I said before, it's not something that we're destined to have. So what are some deficiencies? Well, deficiencies could be like magnesium, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, could be zinc, could be a lot of different things, right? Those are deficiencies. Probably omega-3s to omega-6s, it's a big deal. Okay, now what are some toxicities? Well, let's look at all autoimmune issues. 90% of autoimmune issues have a gut-related component. That means that from taking antibiotics, birth control, alcohol, fried foods, high stress, etc., right, infections, we have more gut permeability. And we got the gut permeability from maybe bacterial overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, H. pylori or parasites, right, or food sensitivities. And so then when we eat, we're actually spilling these pathogens into our bloodstream. And that is then increasing what? White blood cells or the immune system, which then does what? Creates inflammation. The inflammation then sets off our genes and whatever's there, right? So inflammation is not the root cause by any way, stretch of the imagination or anything, right? It's not. Okay, so we say, yes, autoimmune, inflammatory. Where does it come from? Okay, well, there is intestinal permeability. Can you just fix the intestinal permeability? No. You have to ask, why do I have intestinal permeability? Okay, I have intestinal permeability because you might have bacterial overgrowth or yeast overgrowth. All right, so we need to work on those, right? So what do? That's when we now move into more of the specialized protocols. But besides the gut-based issues, there's also heavy metal issues, right? It can be a heavy metal problem. That's a big one as well. So we fix the nutrition, we fix the proper movement within the body, and we work on a lot of these things. They're all outlined for you, honestly, in the Rain Barrel Effect. The Rain Barrel Effect is free. You just pay shipping. I am dedicated to getting that information to the entire world. You go to stephencabral.com/free book. That's for the US. If you're international, you can just go to stephencabral.com/shop and you can find it in the Equal Life store. So you have to keep in mind it's free. You just pay shipping. I literally pay for the book to be printed, and we lose a little bit of money in the shipping. My job is to get that information out to people. It tells us, it's an extended version of how we get sick. Talk about the top 10 ways. So then we have to remove those, right? And then I talk about how to get well in the second half of that book. So that's the Rain Barrel Effect. You can get on Amazon. You can do whatever you'd like. But again, all of this information is also on the podcast. I just want people to be able to access it, share it with others however they can. So we find the root cause. After that, we need to empty the rain barrel. We do. So what does that mean? We do a functional medicine detox, 21 days. That alone is remarkably beneficial. But I want to be honest, you're not healed even if you feel better. You've just dramatically emptied the rain barrel. You still need to work on the underlying root cause. Food sensitivities, candida, bacteria, H. pylori, parasites, heavy metals like mercury, aluminum, lead, arsenic, cadmium, deficiencies like your magnesium, your zinc. Those are common ones that we see. Your omega-3s, like all of those matter as well. And so that's as you start to get into more custom protocol. All right, let's say you have gut overgrowth. We do the CBO protocol. Let's say you have parasites. We do the parasupport protocol. What if you have heavy metals? We do the heavy metal detox protocol. What if you have mold? You do the mold detox protocol. So it's like you do whatever that real underlying root cause is. And then as you're doing that, you do feel better. You really do. And this is typically, as I've said, about 3 to 6 months, sometimes a little longer for the hardest cases. That's okay. And what do we do after that? Well, if you're on medications, you don't stop your medications. You work with your doctor then to begin to wean medications as able. And then you maintain your results with the de-stress protocol that I write about in the Rain Barrel Effect. The proper diet, exercise, stress reduction, tox removal, rest, emotional balance, scientifically backed supplements, and success mindset. Now, it may sound complicated, but it's not. I mean, it's really not. It is just being pretty good at all of those things. You don't need to do them like all perfect. You don't. I'm not perfect. Most people I know that aren't perfect. So you get your body moving with a little bit of walking. You get to bed a little bit earlier. We teach you all of those things. And every single one of these labs that you test for your deficiencies and toxicities, you do them right at home. And they come with a coaching call. So honestly, I'm sharing this here today. I want you to know that I want to help in any way that I can. So you can work with my team by literally just going to stephencabral.com/big5. That'll do all your at-home lab tests. If you can't afford that, I get it, I understand. Go to stephencabral.com/starter-kit. That's a much less expensive option to get started. So that comes with a free coaching call. It's included. It comes with a free plan, everything A to Z of what you need to do. But also, if you don't want to work with my team, I'm okay with that as well. Work with an integrative health practitioner level 2. We have no stake in that game. I just want you to know that. I just want you to know that you have options besides conventional medicine and that you can heal. So you can go to integrativehealthpractitioner.org. Head on over there, click on the practitioners, find a good level 2. Most of them work virtually. So you can work with anyone, anywhere in the world that speaks to you. And that's a great thing to do as well. So my goal is to get this information out every single day in the Cabral Concept, a free podcast. If you have questions, leave them below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If this was helpful, let me know. I would love to hear from you. What would you like to hear next time? And also, if you want same-day questions, same-day answers to your questions, just go to cabralsupportgroup.com. About 27,000 people and climbing there, all organic. That's an online coaching community. Ask questions, support others. It's a beautiful community, people all over the world. And of course, if you want your own personalized plan, stephencabral.com/big5, stephencabral.com/starter-kit, whatever works for you. It'll just take you over to Equal Life. And again, just let us know how we can help. That's what it's all about. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. Always feel free to share these shows with anyone you believe they could serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.